What's up guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing yet another declutter and we are doing another eyeshadow palette declutter. Now you may be surprised to hear this because the last time I did an eyeshadow palette declutter really was not that long ago. It was only about 5 months ago, but I already feel like it's time for me to do another one because every single time I open up my beauty room organizer and I see the palettes section, it really just overwhelms me and I want to condense my collection by quite a bit. And I feel like there are just so many palettes in my collection that I'm just keeping for the sake of keeping them. I mean, story of my life, story of a lot of makeup hoarders' life. I don't know, it attaches itself to my soul and I just don't want to get rid of it. I don't know what else to say. But today I'm sort of in a cutthroat type of mood. I think we are going to really cut it down today. I'll show you guys a little clip of the before of what my current palette collection looks like. It's overwhelming to say the least. I literally cannot even see what I have. There's just so much clutter and disorganization, so I'm really hoping to fix that today. So let's just get into it. Okay, so all of my palettes are stored in these giant buckets. I have a few of them. So starting off first with the first one. Starting off first with a Viseart. I still don't know how to say the name of this brand, but this is the Viseart eyeshadow palette in Warm Mattes 10, and this is what it looks like. I actually just received this palette in PR, and I am actually going to donate this. This is a really great palette to donate because I have never used it. To be honest with you, this palette really doesn't do much for me. There are so many warm tone eyeshadow palettes that I already have in my collection that have these exact shades, and the reason why this palette doesn't really excite me that much is because all of these shades over here look so similar to one another. They literally all look exactly the same. And I sort of wish that this palette had some deeper, punchier shades. I feel like that would have made it a little bit more exciting. So for me, it's just not really something that's worth keeping. So I'm going to donate this one. So next up, I have the Desi and Katie and Dose of Colors Francation palette, and I am totally keeping this. This is honestly my current favorite palette. I just think that they did such a great job in creating a palette that is equally wearable, but also fun and a little bit different. Doesn't look like every other palette that's out there. This palette really does have such a great mix of those basic matte shades that you really need in any eye look, along with really gorgeous, amazingly metallic and intense shades. I actually just recently used this shade in a testing new makeup video. I'll link that down below if you want to check it out. And just the quality of the eyeshadows, the way that they apply are just stunning, and I would definitely highly recommend it if you haven't gotten your hands on this yet and you were debating it. Oh my god, this has a major Jamie stamp of approval on it. I am definitely keeping it. Obviously. Can you imagine if I just went on and on about how amazing it was? I'm gonna get rid of it. That would be really, really weird. Next up, I have this Jouer Rose Gold Matte and Shimmer eyeshadow palette. I am going to declutter this guy. The Jouer eyeshadow palettes are nice, but they're not amazing in my opinion. I feel like their eyeshadow formulation is good, but it's nothing really extraordinary. And I really feel like the color combination in this palette just doesn't really do much for me. When I look at this, I don't really feel completely inspired. And that's something that I really look for when it comes to eyeshadow palettes. I want to look at an eyeshadow palette and be immediately inspired and know different looks that I want to create with it. And this one doesn't really do much for me. I really feel like there's just a really random assortment of shades. There isn't a clear color story in here, which is what bothers me about this palette. So I am going to get rid of it. Next up, I have the Maybelline Soda Pop palette. And this is a palette that had so much potential. And I was so upset when I tried this and it just didn't really live up to what I would expect an eyeshadow palette to live up to. With these types of shades, especially these brighter shades, I want them to be punchy and I want them to be intense, but unfortunately this palette just didn't deliver. The shades were sort of lackluster. It was really upsetting because this palette really did have so much potential and there's not really anything else quite like this at the drugstore, and I always get so excited when there are drugstore palettes that have those really interesting fun colors, so it was sort of unfortunate that it didn't work out. I just don't really love the quality of it, so I am going to be getting rid of this one. So next up I have these 4 CoverGirl palettes, and I'm going to be keeping all 4 of them because I am actually pretty impressed with these eyeshadow palettes and the way that they perform. I was actually, again, very excited to see this one in particular. This is the it's called the True Naked Days palette, but for some reason I was reading that as True Naked. because it's one word, so it just didn't like click in my head. Oh my god, that is like so embarrassing. Anyways, it's the True Naked Dazed palette, and it's basically a rainbow palette. It's so freaking beautiful. All the shades in here do have some sort of shimmer to it, so this isn't going to be a palette that you're going to be able to like just use this and that's it. Like, this is an add-on type of palette with your other more matte basic shades. But I feel like having a palette like this at the drugstore is just awesome, because these are colors that you're not going to use every single day. So not everybody wants to spend a ton of money on really, really bright eyeshadows that you may not use all the time. So it's nice to have that option at the drugstore if you want something bright, but that doesn't break the bank. So next up, this is the Maybelline Lemonade Craze palette. This is similar idea to the Soda Pop palette. It has so much potential. The colors in here really are gorgeous. It just doesn't apply how I want eyeshadows to apply. And I'm not just gonna keep this just for the sake of keeping it, because I just don't like the quality of it. So I'm also gonna get rid of this one. Ooh, we are burning through these, everybody. Oh, I actually really like these. These are the NYX, what are these called? The Element palettes. This is Air, and then this is Metal. You know what? Since I'm being cutthroat, I'm gonna get rid of this one. Now that I'm really looking at it. First of all, I don't think I've ever used this one, so it's a great opportunity for me to donate it. Secondly, I just don't use these types of colors, literally ever. When do you guys ever see me use like pastel mint green on my lids? I don't. However, I'm going to keep the Metal palette because all these metallic shades are incredible. They're intense, they're foiled, they are everything you want a metallic to be. They have really interesting duochromes in here as well. Like this blue right over here has like such a pretty gold green shift to it. I mean, it's like mermaid heaven. Look at that. Okay, I've been keeping this palette in my collection for far too long. I always say that I want to keep it because, I mean, I really love the quality of the eyeshadows. I think that the Makeup Forever eyeshadows are wonderful, but I literally never take this out of my collection. So this is the Makeup Forever 9 Artist Shadow Palette. It's one of the original ones that they came out with. This is in number 2. And the shades in here are pretty, they're cool, but again, I never ever reach for it. Next up, this is the Narcissist Loaded Palette. This was actually a favorite palette of mine for a while. It stayed in my everyday vanity for quite some time, and I used it literally every single day. It's just a really great neutral eyeshadow palette. Do I want to keep it? Have so many palettes like this that look exactly like this that I feel like I now use a lot more. So even though this was a palette that I liked, the shades in here were nice, they worked well, I just don't think I'm gonna keep this because I never really reach for it anymore. There are other neutral palettes that I'm really into right now, and it's just nothing really too crazy special that's worth me keeping. Holy crap, I am being so cutthroat. Good job, Jamie. Okay, next up, I have some Morphe palettes. I am always really selective with the Morphe palettes that I do actually keep. First one here is the 35V, and I actually am going to keep this one. I think that this has a really nice variety of some different shades. I like that there's the blues and the purples and the reds. This is the 15N, and I actually really like this one. I think this is a really great neutral palette. I really do like the tones in here. I like the mix of mattes and metallics. It's a good one, so I'm gonna be keeping that one as well. Another NARS palette. This is the Wanted Eyeshadow Palette. This is another one of those palettes that I feel like just doesn't have a very clear color story. It's a little bit all over the place. Like when I look at this, I don't really see eyeshadow looks that I can create. Like I could see one look that I can create with this palette. Otherwise, it just doesn't really inspire me that much. I'm gonna be getting rid of this one as well. Natasha Denona palettes. Okay, I have 3 of them right here. Let's go through them. First one is the Star palette. Oh my God, it's such a mess. I'm actually gonna get rid of this one. Oh my God, I'm doing it, finally. Normally I keep all of my really expensive eyeshadow palettes because it just hurts me way too much to get rid of them. But you know what, like, I just can't. This is not my favorite Natasha Denona palette. I really actually love the metallics in here. I think that they're so gorgeous. I mean, look at that. They're so freaking like intense and beautiful, and they really, oh my God, Natasha Denona just does metallics so well. I feel like with the mattes in here, they just didn't do as great of a job with the color selection. I feel like they could have been a little bit better. I am actually gonna get rid of this one just because I don't feel like I really use it. However, oh God, my Sunset palette is looking a little bit rough, but it's so freaking beautiful. The Sunset palette inspires me so much. Like when I look at this palette, I'm like, okay, I can make like 30,000 different looks with this because every single shade in here I feel like has a pretty solid purpose. And this yellow, I mean, this yellow is just So good. Same thing goes with the Lila palette. I still don't know how to say it. I really like the color combinations in here. I really feel like I do get quite inspired when I see all these shades, and what I like most about it is that a lot of these shades I actually don't have in other palettes. I feel like there are some shades in here that are pretty unique. Like these beautiful raspberry shades are so gorgeous. This cool tone purple is so cool, and I just think this is a great like purple tone palette, and I've been really into purples lately, so I'm looking forward to taking this out a little bit more often. The Anastasia Norvina palette. You know what? I actually think I'm going to keep this. It actually reminds me quite a bit of the Lila palette from Natasha Denona. It has a very similar vibe. I think the shades in here are also really pretty. I like all of the metallics in here. The mattes in here aren't really my favorites. I feel like Soul is a super weird shade. Like this is the type of shade that you will apply and it will just make your eye look immediately really muddy and weird because it's that like cool tone blue gray. Super hard to pull off. So I don't really love the mattes in here. I feel like they're a little bit, again, all over the place. There's not a super clear color story there, but all these metallics up here are sort of worth it for me to keep this whole entire palette. And I love the Anastasia metallic formula as well. Look how nice that is. Oh yeah, that rose gold. Whew. Moving on, this is the L'Oreal La Palette Nude #1 palette. I'm gonna declutter this. This is a fine neutral palette, but again, I feel like a lot of the shades in here sort of look exactly the same. I'm also gonna get rid of this Flower Beauty eyeshadow palette. I tried this in my testing Flower Beauty makeup tutorial, and I remember it being like a fine palette. There wasn't really anything wrong with it, but it also didn't blow me out of the water. And I didn't like that there was no mattes in here. So it makes it a palette that I can't really use on its own, which is sometimes a deal breaker for me if I feel like the shades aren't really that special to begin with. Oh, this is my Sephora Pro palette that I just picked up. This is the Pro Pigment palette, and it's sort of like a giant version of the Anastasia Norvina palette. Doesn't it give you just such similar vibes? I was gonna say maybe since I have this, I don't need to keep the Norvina one. If I was being really cutthroat, that's what I would do, but I just don't wanna do that today. I am going to be keeping this. I think that this is a really pretty palette. I have been using it quite a bit, and because I've been using it quite a bit, I've been noticing things that I sort of wish were in here that aren't. Like I do wish that they had some more deeper shades like these so that I would be able to deepen up my eye looks a little bit more. I feel like there's a lot of mid-tones, which are nice because it gives you a lot of options, but I do wish that there were some darker ones just to really, you know, amp up the versatility a little bit. I have the Chartist Pro. I'm actually going to be getting rid of this one. This was probably my least favorite palette from the Chartist eyeshadow lineup. I feel like the other Chartist eyeshadow palettes were just a little bit more up my alley. This one, I just didn't love all the colors in here. Next up, I have the Too Faced Just Peachy Matte. I am going to keep this palette actually. I think that this is a really well done palette. This is another palette where I feel like all the shades in here really have a purpose. You get a nice mix of mid-tones, of really deep shades, and also some nice like highlighting shades. You really do have a little bit of everything. There's nothing in here that I would like switch out, and it smells really nice, so I'm gonna keep it. Urban Decay Naked Heat. I'm also gonna be keeping this. I don't really love a lot of the Naked palettes except for the Naked Heat, and I do like Naked Cherry, but I would say the Naked Heat is probably my favorite. And I'm also gonna be keeping the Electric palette. This is basically never gonna leave my collection. All right, moving on now to the second box, which is so heavy. Oh my God, this is what it looks like. You know what, my gut instinct was to never let go of these Pat McGrath palettes, but just because they're Pat McGrath doesn't mean I have to keep them. For example, this one over here, even though I think the shades in here are beautiful, I just don't think it's something that I'm really going to use because again, I have these shades like literally 30,000 times over. And I think I have like some friends and family who would really appreciate this. This is Drugstore palette and the shades in here are pretty, but again, they're just not shades that I ever really reach for that much. And I just don't see myself taking out this palette to like grab any of these. I have another Visart palette here that I'm going to get rid of. This is the Paris Nudes 06. I just feel like the colors in here like are too unsaturated. Like I almost just want to like bump up the saturation a little bit, and I would probably like this so much more, but I feel like all the shades in here are so like dull. I'm gonna be getting rid of that one as well. I have my Tarte palettes over here. I'm gonna be keeping all three of them. We got the Toasted, the original Tartelette, and then the Tartelette in Bloom. I love these. I'm also going to be keeping my Tarte Clay Play palette. I love this palette so much. It is really great basic shades. There's really not much else to say, but I just like the formula and I like the shades that are in there and I always reach for it. Ooh, we have a little Rimmel palette here. This is actually a complete dupe for the Urban Decay Naked Heat. Like it literally is exactly the same. They copied it. Let's just say it how it is. This is a great drugstore palette. I am gonna keep it, and I do actually quite like it. Natasha Denona Safari palette. I'm gonna be keeping this one as well. I love this. I think this is such a unique palette. A lot of the shades in here don't exist anywhere else in my collection, which I always very much appreciate, and I also really like that all the shades in here are matte. Okay, it's freaking time to get rid of these. These are the Too Faced palettes that I've been keeping in my collection just for the sake of keeping them, and there's just no reason for me to keep them anymore because I don't remember the last time I took them out. I have the Sweet Peach, which looks like this, Bonbon, which looks like this, chocolate bar palette, which looks like this. I have all the Smashbox Cover Shop palettes. I really do like these. I like how small and compact they are. There's some color combinations that I do prefer over others, however, so I'm not gonna keep all of them, but I'll show you guys very quickly which ones I am gonna keep. This one is probably my favorite one. I think the color combination is just so unique and cool. And this is the Sunlit Yellow palette. I'm also gonna keep this one. This is called Petal Metal, really pretty rosy tones. This is Pinks and Palms. I love this one too. I just think it's, again, really unique. I love the combination of that green with all the pinks. I love a good pink palette. This is the Punked eyeshadow palette. I'm gonna be getting rid of this one. This is a very, very cool tone and a little bit of like a duller palette. I just don't feel like these type of shades work really well for my eyes. This one is very fun. It is the Bold Glitter Eye palette, and it's just that. It's very bold and very glittery. Again, a very unique palette. Don't really have that much in my collection that is this bold and glittery, and I think it's definitely worth keeping, so I'm gonna be keeping it. But look at that, very pretty. Two Anastasia eyeshadow palettes. We have Subculture, this one over here, and Modern Renaissance. Obviously keeping Modern Renaissance is one of my all-time favorite palettes. I think that the color combination is just so freaking gorgeous. If you're gonna get any one of the Anastasia eyeshadow palettes, let it be this one. Subculture I'm also gonna be keeping just because the shades in here are very unique. People didn't like how much fallout it had, but I feel like once you get used to it, once you sort of know what you're dealing with, it's really not so bad. You just sort of gotta like go in with a light hand. I have these little Bare Minerals palettes over here. One is in the shade Rose, which looks like this. I don't know why this would be called Rose. This is like so opposite of what a rose palette would look like in my head. I feel like this is just so gray and not rose, but I actually really like how sleek and compact this palette is. The front of it is so pretty, but these are just colors that I just never wear. They're like really, really cool tone, and like I said, I love cool tone shades, but I just don't feel like this is really anything too crazy special, and it's not something that I love, so I'm gonna get rid of that one. Then this one is called Neutral. I'm gonna keep this one actually. I think this is, again, a really great palette to travel with. You really have everything that you need in here to create like several different eye looks. You have beautiful deepener shades that are both matte, a really nice matte cream, a shadow that has a little bit of a sheen to it, which would work great as like a brow bone highlight, and two really pretty metallic bronzy shades. Okay, I have more Morphe palettes here. This is the Dare to Create 39A palette. Colors in here are really pretty, and I actually do really like the colors in here, but it's such a huge palette. It like literally covers my face. It's so big that honestly, because of its size, I just don't want to keep it because it takes up so much room, and I think somebody else in my life would really enjoy this because there's just so much in here. Got the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill palette. I'm going to be keeping this. I do really like the Morphe and Jaclyn Hill palette. I think it's really pretty. This little mini palette, this is the 15D. This is like orange toned eyeshadow heaven. Totally keeping this one. This one is the 3502. This was so popular at one point. It's a very, very warm toned eyeshadow palette. I feel like this one is sort of like a smaller version of the larger one, and I don't really need to keep both, so I'm gonna be getting rid of this one. Then we have the 24G Grand Glam palette. I actually really like this one. I like how big the eyeshadow pans are, and I think the shades in here are a little bit more unique as well. I love this shade in particular. Like, I would literally keep this palette just for this shade right over here. I just think it's a really beautiful muted rose. I have two of my new Huda Beauty Obsessions palettes. I recently just bought these, so I'm definitely keeping them. The Huda Beauty Obsessions palettes are some of my favorite palettes, especially to travel with because they are tiny. They literally fit in the palm of your hand, and you have 3, 6, 9 eyeshadows, which is so great. It's a lot of like bang for the size that it actually is. And I feel like the color combinations are always really beautiful and unique. This one is Ruby and this one is Topaz. Next up, I have my Lorac Pro palette. This was probably my most used palette ever. I have hit pan on one shade here. I'm about to hit pan on nude, and like I'm about to hit pan on also several more shades in this palette. That literally has never happened to me with any other palette. This was just so well loved, and I am going to keep it because I feel like I don't give it enough love anymore, and it's such a good like everyday type of palette. I think this would be great to put in my everyday vanity. Oh my god, you guys, I'm so proud of myself. I can lift this up nice and easy. It's not even that heavy anymore. These are all the palettes that I'm keeping in this basket. Let us move on to the next one. Next up, third basket. This is what it looks like. Let's do this. Got the Urban Decay Naked Cherry palette. I'm gonna be keeping this one as well. I feel like I also haven't had like quite a lot of opportunities to really like test this one out fully, so I don't even really have my full thoughts on this yet. So for those reasons, I am gonna keep it. This Sephora Pro palette, oh, this was such a freaking waste of money, you guys. This makes me really upset. This is the Cool Tone palette, and I bought this when they first released the Sephora Pro palettes. I don't know why I got this one. This was like literally the least exciting one. I feel like this has like the weirdest array of colors. There's just like grays and then pinks and then a gold and then like a silver and then like a baby pink. It's a little bit all over the place. There's no cohesiveness here. It's like just really hard to create looks with this. I really just don't like it. It's as simple as that, so I am gonna get rid of this one. Okay, this palette is actually really cool, and I feel like it's a little bit like underrated. This is the Laura Mercier Editorial Eye Palette, which is the perfect name for a palette like this. Sort of like a creamy texture, and it feels almost a little bit wet. It gives the eyes the most amazing, almost like wet lid look. Almost feels like a cream, but it's not a cream. It's definitely a powder, but it's so intense. Like, look at that. Can you imagine that black all over the lid for just like a glossy, smoky eye? And I feel like I've sort of completely forgotten about this palette, but I remember when I first got it, I was really excited about it. So I'm gonna keep this out. I really wanna try this out a little bit more. Got my two Milani palettes. This one is Soft and Smoky, which looks like this, and Pure Passion, which looks like this. I'm gonna be keeping both of these. I think these are absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous palettes. Like, this is a cool tone palette done right. Even though all these shades in here are very cool tone, they still have like some depth and like richness to them, which I think is a mistake that a lot of cool tone palettes make. Like, they just are a little bit too dull, but this one is so perfect. I mean, if you like warm tones, this is sort of like a no-brainer. It sort of reminds me of the Tartelette Toasted palette. This would be a great dupe. Urban Decay Born to Run. Do I even need to say anything? No, I don't, because this is one of my favorite palettes. I think that Urban Decay knocked it out of the park with this one. Every single shade in here is absolutely gorgeous. Such a great variety of neutrals, of fun colors, of mattes, of metallics. Like, everything in here is just so freaking perfect. So I'm totally keeping this one. Too Faced Natural Matte Palette. I'm getting rid of this one. Just, again, another neutral matte palette. I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. I'm getting rid of all my neutral matte palettes, and I'm just gonna end up with none of them, and then I'm gonna have to like get a neutral matte palette. Oh my god, this one over here is so pretty from Rimmel. This is the Crimson Edition palette. This reminds me so much of the Naked Cherry palette. It's very, very similar. It has those nice like really pretty pink tones. Pinks are really trendy right now. Sometimes with like more trendy eyeshadow palettes, you don't want to spend a ton of money on them, and that's why I think getting something from the drugstore is great, because you just don't know if you're even gonna like the trend or how long the trend is gonna last. So if you want to try out pink eyeshadow, this would be a great palette to check out. This is the Urban Decay Naked Petite Heat. This is a great little, again, traveling palette, another great one and done. You have all the shades in here to create a full eye look, and I love that it's all matte. Oh my god, this palette is so pretty. It's from Ciate, and it's called the Glitter Storm palette. First of all, the packaging is just the cutest. I love the purple tones. I like that it's a little bit of a different palette than just like a purely warm tone palette, and these three shades in here really are what makes this palette so special. They're very, very glittery and very intense. You just don't find that a lot in a lot of palettes. Like, these are pure glitter eyeshadows. Like, you need a glitter primer to apply these to your lid. Look at that though. They're so cool. This little palette from e.l.f. is so great. It is the Matte for Matte eyeshadow palette. I think this is Matte for Matte 2. It has the beautiful, like, more sunset tones. This is a wonderful, wonderful, super inexpensive palette. I love the way that they apply it. I'm keeping this one. Wow, 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 wow. I was very savage in this box. There's, like, nothing left in here. That's crazy. Good on me. Thank you. Next. Guys, this is the last little box and then we're done. This one just houses a lot of my like smaller palettes. First things first though, I have my Natasha Denona Gold palette. I am definitely keeping this. It's so freaking pretty, and I still have yet to have a chance to try this one out. Got the Nabla Poison Garden palette. This is another one of the newer releases. I think the shades in here, again, are very unique, very cool, very different. I have yet to play with this one as well, so I'm keeping it so that I could, you know, try it out, and then I'll get my thoughts on it and let you guys know what I think. Got my little Melt eyeshadow stack. Melt eyeshadows are so great. I would say that the packaging is really cool, just a little bit inconvenient. I feel like I don't reach for them enough because they are a little bit of like a more inconvenient type of packaging. I do know that you are able to depot these though, which I honestly should do and just put them in a palette, because I feel like I would use it so much more because the shades are gorgeous. This color in particular, oh my god, it's so nice. It's called Rubbish, and it literally is the shade of like rubbish. It's like a mustardy, dirty type of like yellow brown. Next up, I have this little Dior eyeshadow palette in the shade Embrace. These are really pretty. I mean, again, it's just a neutral palette, but I feel like it's just not a palette that I ever reached for, so I'm gonna get rid of that one. These are all of my Huda Beauty Obsessions palettes. I'm keeping all of them. You guys know how much I love these. I have the warm brown, the coral, the mauve, and the smoky. They're all so great. If you're wondering what my favorite ones are, I love the smoky one, which is this one over here. And I really love the mauve one, which is this one over here. These are like my top two. Got my other little e.l.f. matte palette. Gonna be cute. Oh, well, that's unfortunate. Last but not least, Tom Ford eyeshadow quad. It's in the shade Disco Dust. You know what? No, I'm not gonna keep it. I'm not gonna keep it because I never use it, and I'm just gonna admit to myself right now that this was an extreme waste of money. I'm putting it to rest. Okay, I'm now going to just organize everything back into my little cabinet, and then I will show you guys the final result. These are a mix of ones that I'm giving away and ones that I'm also gonna be donating. So I think I did a really good job. I'm really pleased with all the ones that I actually ended up getting rid of. And then here is an overview of my new, beautifully organized eyeshadow section. I'm actually so pleased with the way this turned out. This looks so much more like manageable and easy to see. These palettes back here, by the way, are all of like my single eyeshadows, which I did not go through. So much better. Yay. A++++. So guys, that's it for today's declutter. I really hope that you enjoyed it and entertaining. Let me know all your thoughts down below. Let me know some eyeshadow palettes that you recently got rid of. Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up as well, and subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.